smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz is back, and that's right. And I just love that little intro my son has created for his mommy. Like, I think it's really cool. I was back here just dancing away. So thanks again for that little song, son, that you've written for mom. I think it's really cool. Now, tonight we have an incredible guest in the house. We have Mary Alice Stevenson here, and we're going to be talking about her book called Uncorked. That's right. So we're going to be talking about some topics that might be emotionally, a little emotionally triggering for some of my viewers. So if you do feel like that, in the disclaimer, I will get to that as well in a second. And then we're going to spill some tea. And tonight's tea that we're going to be spilling is authenticity, family resilience, and humor, and heart and sober. That's right. That is Mary Alice Stevens tea that we're going to be serving. So the disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experience and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including, but not limited to, trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, Miss Liz, directly at my email, bookingmissliz@gmail.com, or my link tree, Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz, myself, is welcoming you to join the conversation with an open heart, and at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth, awareness, one cup at a time. Now let me give you a little bit on my guest. Well, tonight I want to welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz the pleasure of sharing the table with the inspiring Mary Alice Stevens, a gifted storyteller, author, and advocate whose journey reflects resilience, healing, and transformation. Mary Alice Stevens, the inspiring author of Uncorked, a memoir of letting go and starting over. With raw honesty and a captivating storytelling voice, Mary Alice takes readers on an emotional journey of self-discovery, resilience, and renewal. Her memoir, Uncorked, the layers of love, loss, and transformation, inviting others to embrace their own second chances with courage and authenticity. Mary Alice brings a unique light to every conversation, sharing her wisdom and experience in a way that touches hearts and sparks change. Through her work, she reminds us of the power of embracing our stories and finding strength in the lessons they hold. So grab your favorite cup and join me in welcoming the incredible Mary Alice Stevens to Tea Time, where real conversations brew and transformation begins. Let me get her in here. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you here with me today. So, Mary, I'm going to do like I do with all my guests. Who was Mary Alice as a little girl and who is Mary now?
Mary Alice as a little girl was eager, wanting to always be in the middle of everything, a tomboy, pretty insecure, and I would say a fun seeker.
Yeah, that's where the fun comes in.
Yep. It's all about fun. Always has been, always will be.
See, and that's what I tell everybody. It's the little kid in us that brings us to the big kid. You know, what we're missing as a child, that's what we get into, when we get older. You mentioned tomboy, so you must have some brothers, right?
Yes, I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
And that's where the tomboy comes in, right? You got to.
Yeah, I thought boys had more fun for sure. I wanted to be playing all the ball sports and doing the boy chores like washing the car and mowing the lawn. I did not want to be in the kitchen, cleaning house or baking things. I was definitely, in fact, I played on the boys basketball team in 4th grade, and I pretended to be a boy. I cut my hair short and made the boys call me Mark, so the other teams would think I was a boy.
This was all before internet hit us, right?
Yeah.
We got away with this stuff.
Well, and my parents had so many kids, they didn't care. They didn't notice. They're like,
You can be Mark today. I'm so happy that internet only came out when it did, because there's a lot of things that that we did that we got to enjoy before all of the systems and programs and society and the likes and the loves. We just did the crazy things.
yeah, and you could forget about them after, and there was no proof.
Absolutely. So, Mary, let's get into this book called Uncorked. It is such a striking title. So, what does it symbolize for you personally?
So when I started writing this sobriety memoir, I first thought about calling it corked, because when the wine goes bad, it's considered corked. Or when you put the cork in the bottle, it means you're done drinking. But then recovery is more about uncorking. After I stopped drinking and stopped kind of letting alcohol determine my personality and my identity, I had to uncork who I was before I started drinking, which for me was age 16. And for 30 years, I had an abusive relationship with alcohol that was progressive. So when I got sober at 45, I didn't even know who I was without alcohol, because it was my first solution for fun. Like, it amped up all the fun. But over the years, it also like softened the hard times and took away the loneliness and took away the stress after work or with parenting or the boredom of parenting. So it was kind of my go-to solution. And I hadn't learned coping techniques for living life, for feeling feelings, for sitting with hard feelings or boredom, or trying to have authentic fun that wasn't booze laced. So that's where I flipped it to Uncorked.
I like that. I never even thought of it that way, uncorking ourselves, breaking those habits and patterns and stuff. We have a question that just came in for you, Mary. Did did your drinking start at home?
Well, kind of. No, it started in a 7-Eleven parking lot, to be very precise. I was going to a high school party and, dumped out half of the big gulp of Coke, poured in Bacardi. And so it started at high school parties. I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, so we did have alcohol at all the celebrations. And once we were 18, we were allowed to join at home and have a drink with the family at cocktail hour. But I was my dad's bartender's assistant since I was little, and I would get up on a high chair and put like the maraschino cherries and the Manhattans and the olives and the martinis. So it's been around my life, my whole life.
Yeah, because a lot of alcoholism in families, like the generation cycles, and that usually start from home, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get it out there for my listeners out there, that not all alcoholism starts at home, but some does.
We definitely have the gene in my family.
So by reading this book, how does your family feel about the book?
Well, luckily my parents have passed away. Not that I spoke ill of them, but they're so private and old school that the thought, I think, of airing my laundry might make them uncomfortable. Like, just the fact that I did anything that was not legal, let's say. I don't think they would have liked. I did tell my dad before he died that I was writing this book, and he said, he was proud of me for doing that. But I'm glad he didn't have to read it. And my siblings have all been very supportive.
Well, that's nice when you got the support, right? Especially when you're uncorking yourself and doing the recovery. It's a lot better when you have support system as well.
It's so important, and I don't take it for granted. I mean, my husband has been super supportive. My kids were only 4 and 5 when I got sober, but as they grew up, I shared with them, honestly, my sobriety story and answered any questions they had. And they're 18 and 19 now, so it's important for them to know that they have a chance also of being an alcoholic.
So, Mary Alice, I'm going to pull up the book cover so that all my viewers can see, the ones that are watching the video. And can you explain to us how you got the cover and the pictures and images behind it, and
Sure.
how long it took you to write the book?
So that book is published by Sibylline Press, and they have an awesome designer, Alicia Feltman, who helped me with the cover. So that title with the dropped O was my idea, and the young woman hanging on to that represents a scene at the prologue of the book. So that's me when I was 23 and I was in Ireland, and I tried to climb or scale a wall to get to a party. And I was hanging on by my fingertips, not realizing that on the other end, there was a 3-story drop. And I fell and crushed my heel and broke my back in 3 places and wound up in a body cast. And but I was in denial that alcohol had anything to do with that fall, because I'd only had 3 drinks, which was just pre-gaming for me at that time. So it's a through line in the book, my denial of my alcoholism for many years after that.
So in the book, is there different, like your chapters are different parts of your journey through the recovery?
Yeah. So the prologue is this fall. Chapter 1 is the last day that I drink. And then in chapter 2, I get right to sobriety, because I found in other sobriety memoirs, the book is mostly about their drinking years. And at the end, they're like, oh, and I got sober and I took up jogging and life is awesome. And that wasn't my experience. I found new sobriety, while crucial, really difficult. And there was a lot of drama there and a lot of learning to be had. So I wanted to focus on that. Like, that's the book I needed when I was newly sober. Those first days, weeks, and months, that whole first year is full of wonderful moments and challenging moments. And I wanted to be able to kind of hold somebody's hand through that process and walk them through the fire.
So, Mary, writing this book, I'm guessing you read other books and you noticed that there was this story, I got sober at the end. So you brought the sober part into the beginning of the book, and then at the end, what's the ending kind of like?
Spoiler, I'm still sober 14 years later. So the book takes you the book takes you through the first year of sobriety. And then I jump in the epilogue to 10 years. And then it was actually 11 years, when I was 11 years sober, that I went back to Ireland for the first time since my fall, 34 years later. And I had my husband and my kids with me. And I kind of had a life reckoning at the wall where I fell.
So, Mary, when did you know that you had a problem?
So I secretly knew I had a problem for a long time. And when I say secretly, I mean, I certainly didn't talk to anybody else about it. And I had a hard time admitting it to myself, because I didn't want to quit. I just thought life was going to be so miserable without alcohol, which may sound crazy to people who don't have a problem with alcohol, but it's an addiction for a reason. It gives you something, right? It was my best friend for so many years, but it was terrible. I was blackouts and hangovers and risky situations. So I had to quit. And now I forgot your question. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, I was only asking, like, when did you realize that?
When did I realize? Right. So I kept having these really shameful moments when I was hungover, and I'm like, you have a problem, you need to quit. And then my hangover would go away and I'd feel better. And I'm like, you know what? You're okay. You got it. Next time you'll know not to drink too much, or there's a lot of other people like you and they're fine. Like your job is fine. Your marriage is fine. So I knew for a while, and it wasn't until another friend of mine got sober that I found somebody that I could be honest with. And I knew she wouldn't judge me, and I knew she wouldn't like, threaten me like, okay, this now you have to get sober, right? So it was a safe place for me to talk to. And she's in the book. I give almost everybody a fake name, but I call her Katie in the book. And she was in AA. And when I decided to get sober, I called her and she took me to my first meeting.
And how was that for your first meeting?
Ugh. I mean, I had so much fear going into the meeting, because I had told my husband that morning, like, I'm done, I'm quitting. So I knew that I was signing up for a future of forever not drinking. And I walked in and I looked around and I'm like, I don't think these are my people. And, but in that meeting, in that very first meeting, I heard in the readings and the people sharing, like, I heard my story. I heard people trying to convince themselves they weren't alcoholics, that they had tried all these different ways to quit drinking. And, like I did. And I just identified, like, I was an alcoholic, and I broke down crying, which I'm not really a crier. So to A, cry, and to B, cry in public was a big deal for me. But there was some relief afterwards in surrendering.
Well, and being real and raw with yourself, right? That authentic self.
Yeah.
And that was something that you gave me for your T was authenticity. So let's talk about that word authentic. What does it mean to you?
It means being okay with being imperfect, not having to put on a show for other people, that you are, like a vaudeville act of entertaining, happy, everything's wonderful. And being confident in being not perfect.
Well, I guess in the fields that you worked as well, Mary, you had to have that perfected kind of outlook, right? Like people looked at you and said, "Oh, she doesn't have any issues. She's fine. She's got it all made," right?
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Well, so I was always happiest at work because I worked in television and advertising. It was very social, a lot of camaraderie, and I couldn't drink there, and I didn't have to think about drinking there. And I liked doing well at something. That fed me to be like, okay, you maybe have this drinking issue, but look how great you are at work. So that was all fine at work. It was when I was alone that I couldn't handle the noise in my head. The critical voice would come out and say, you didn't do well enough today, or, how could you, blah, 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 whatever wasn't good enough. And in order to quiet that voice, I drank.
Mary, we have some questions that came in, and it says your background in TV production is fascinating. How did those years with HGTV and Food Networks influence your voice as a writer?
That's so funny. So in those shows, I wrote for somebody else's voice, which you may not even think that those shows are scripted at all, but you go out and shoot the story and then you bring it back and you write the narration. So I was always writing in somebody else's voice. But what I yearned to do was write in my own voice and tell my own stories, my true stories. So after working so much for my day job, I would go take creative writing classes at night, where I'd get to spill my guts, and I could write whatever I wanted. And it wasn't going on television or anything. It wasn't going to anybody if I didn't want it to, other than sharing with the class. So that's when I kind of fell in love with writing creative nonfiction.
And that leads right into the next question that I have here. It's how did pursuing your MFA in creative writing impact the way you approached your memoir?
Well, it took me a long time to write my memoir. It took me over a decade. I started writing it when I was 2 years sober in 2013, but in little fits and starts while the kids were at school. And then it was such a bucket list item for me to write a book, and it became write this sobriety memoir, that I felt like I wasn't having enough discipline to keep my butt in the chair. So a therapist actually suggested, when I was whining about never getting it done, she's like, why don't you get your MFA? And I'm like, okay. So it turns out there's a college right in my town. They had a low residency MFA, which is meant for people who have day jobs, even though I didn't have one. And I did the 2-year program from 2022 to 2024. And I went from kind of a loose, rough draft to a finished manuscript. But even still, that took 2 years to get that done.
Well, and that's what I want my listeners to understand, right? Is that memoirs are not just done in 2 weeks or 2 days. Sometimes they're put on the shelf for 10 years, and a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit. So putting it all together, how did that feel like once you started seeing it come together?
Oh, it was amazing. And I really needed that time because sobriety, the first step is quitting drinking, but emotional sobriety takes time. It's such a huge life change. And for me, I drank for 30 years, right? So this wasn't going to be an overnight change for me. So I'm 14 years sober now. I'm still learning. I'm still growing emotionally. So had I finished that book quickly, it would have been a different book. It wouldn't have been as deep, I don't think. So I needed the time to get it done.
And we have a question that just came in for you, Mary. How did it feel to hold your book?
It felt awesome. It still feels awesome. I have one right here. I can't believe that I have a 3D, example of my blood, sweat, and tears over all those years. I'm really proud.
There's something like when you open your own work and you feel it's really empowering. Like it blows your mind away. I know when I wrote my books, I was just like, when I opened the box, it was like a Christmas gift, right? That you asked Santa for that Barbie doll that you wanted, or that bicycle. Was like, oh, I got it. I really got it. I really did it.
The craziest moment for me was I was going to do a reading at a bookstore, and it was my launch. I'd just been published, and I got there early, and I was sitting in the parking lot, and I saw a woman walk out with my book tucked under her arm, and I didn't know her. And I'm like, that's it. That's all I needed. I'm so happy somebody bought the book that doesn't know me, and I hope they'll get something from it. And I was ecstatic.
And what do you want your readers to get from this book?
I want them to get what I wish I knew before getting sober, that you will have a better life in sobriety, which I did not believe. You'll have a better life. You can have fun, authentic fun in sobriety. And you will learn so much about yourself. It's just an emotional journey that I think keeps giving. The more years I have, the more I understand who I was, who I am, and who I can become if I point my compass in that direction.
Well, I kind of found this when I was doing my homework on you, Mary. And it says a self-critical teenager fueled by the fun Mary. So let's get to know a little bit of this critical teenager and then this fun few Mary.
Yeah, I've talked to other alcoholics who feel like they were just born feeling less than. It's similar to a chip on your shoulder, but it's not like you're angry at other people. You're more like you just don't feel like you measure up to everybody else. And that's kind of a heavy horsehair sweater to wear,
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And it still pops out in me. That self-critical voice still pops out. But now, I did the 12 steps of AA. I kind of have a toolkit for managing that self-critical voice. And I can put her back in her place now. I can put her away, tell her to go take a hike.
So in that toolkit, is that where the fun few Mary is?
The fun Mary disappeared for a while in early sobriety. I will say that for sure. I had an awful time trying to socialize, an awful time trying to parent, without my little glass of wine. Do you know what the witching hour is?
No.
The witching hour is when it's like, it coincides with happy hour. So my happy hour used to be like 5 to 7 p.m. It's also the time that toddlers tend to lose their business. They get a little cranky, right? And it makes the mom get a little like this. So I had to deal with those without my little handy helper, mommy's helper, my glass of wine. It was really difficult. So I had to learn to feel my feelings and focus on gratitude, not think about what I gave up, but think about what I'm getting. And I learned to be so much more present with my kids and much more honest with my husband and friends. And I started learning to enjoy my own company. And then authentic fun Mary kind of kicked in.
And what does the fun Mary do?
Fun Mary's fun looks a little different than it used to. And I can remember what I did the next day. But I still like socializing, but I used to be the more the merrier, big party type. Now I like a nice dinner party, you know. I love getting out in nature, taking walks with my dog and my husband, my kids if I can drag them, which is almost never. And now I really like my alone time. And it's going to sound really boring, but I love puzzles. They're so meditative for me. I'm still a restless soul, so I have a hard time just sitting there and meditating. But if I'm puzzling, I'm super zen. Um, I'm dying to take a watercolor class that I will be terrible at, but I don't care. I just want to explore different arts and different things. I like cooking. Like I'll get a New York Times recipe and I find that creative, just following the directions and being like, wow, I actually made that.
I like this fun, Mary, because it's trying, getting out there and just trying. There's so much that we live with regret because we're just too scared to try it. We're just like, oh, we're not good at it, so we're not going to even try it. But like you just said with the watercolors, I know it's not going to be great, but you might surprise yourself. You might be like, whoa,
Yeah.
I'm the new Picasso.
Yeah. And I mean, that life is about exploring, right? Like I always have this argument with my husband. Every time we go on vacation, I'm like, this was awesome. And he goes, great, let's go here again. I'm like, no, there's too much world to see. We've got to keep going. You'll never recreate that first feeling, that excitement of discovery. So I think that's been a fun aspect.
Is that what got you into the HGT and the Food Network? Was all the different colors and flavors that came into it?
Yeah. The best thing about producing is that you learn something every time you're on a new assignment because you are featuring experts in whatever their field is. I did a travel show called Backroads, and by nature of the show, I was only going to awesome places, meeting awesome people and getting to know their stories. So it was learning in the most 3D kind of way. All of those jobs were. I mean, some of them were a lot of work and not very glamorous, but it was still fun, fun to work with those people and fun to learn. I didn't know anything about interior design or cooking back then. And it was, now I know how to chop a pillow to make it look all professional. And
and that's part of like our stories, right? The life stories is everybody thinks it's all so nice together, but there's like all of the people in the background that nobody sees. Like the screenwriters, the producers, the production team, the directing team. Nobody sees any of that, right? They just see a nice, pretty picture,
yeah,
and nice cookies and nice cakes, and
yeah,
nice decoration home, but they don't see all the working behind it.
yeah. And they don't see everything you have to do before you start play on your podcast, right? To make these things happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Podcasting, there's a lot to it, that a lot of people don't know about, but. Getting back into the field that you worked in, Mary, what is one thing that outshined or really made an impact in your life?
Beyond work?
Yeah.
Camping, nature.
Oh.
I think I grew up Catholic, but I was very connected to God, but not so much to church. But my parents also took us camping for 3 weeks every summer. And then we would always go to the desert in the spring to see the spring bloom. And I felt just so like at peace. I could breathe. I felt connected to my spiritual side. And that has continued, especially in sobriety, to play a big role in where I feel at peace.
And a lot of people who go through trauma or addictions or any form of recovery have a strong spiritual side because we want to understand why things have happened, right? We have that why question all the time. Why me? Why did this happen to me? Why couldn't I handle the liquor? Why couldn't I, get it together? All those whys. And the spiritual side kind of comes in and says, it's your story. It's part of the story.
Yeah. And I feel like I got sober right when I was ready to, sometimes people are like, gosh, I wish I could have gotten sober 20 years earlier, but you know what? You probably weren't ready. And I know for me, I had to be ready, and I wasn't ready until I was 45.
We have another question here for you, Mary. Sharing your story, has it opened up other women sharing their stories of sobriety?
Yes, that is the best thing. It is the best thing when somebody says to me, like, I'm trying to get sober, or I just had somebody comment that they tried, or that they got sober for a year during COVID, and then they went back to drinking. But after reading my book, they're going to try it again. And not even about my book, just people sharing their story. One alcoholic talking to another is how we help each other out, and stay sober.
And Mary, why do you feel that women are not sharing their stories more on sobriety?
Well, I'm not an expert on the publishing industry, but from what I understand, there tend to be more male authors published than female authors. Um, I'm also going to guess, but I don't have any facts to back this up. There's a lot of shame for women because we're moms. And to admit we have a drinking problem is basically like saying, hello, Child Protective Services, come get me, right? Where dads don't have that stigma. Um, I'm just guessing that that might be part of it as well. But when you look at the advertising industry, women are so targeted. You're taught that you can't relax without a glass of wine, or you can't celebrate without a glass of champagne. And I think overall, the numbers of drinkers are going down, but the number of women drinkers are going up.
Yeah. And the next question I have for you, Mary, is what was the most challenging part of turning the lens inward and sharing your own story?
I would say writing about other people was hard. I've always been an open book, and I didn't have any problem spilling my guts on the page, but writing about other people, because you can't just write about yourself, right? That would be a pretty boring story. And nobody lives alone. Nobody's an island. So you have other people. So managing other people's privacy while still sharing my story and how other people have impacted my sobriety, both negatively and positively, I had to do it to tell my story. So that was the hardest part, is, you know, changing their physical characteristics enough so they wouldn't be recognized, but staying true to what happened and how I felt about what happened.
Well, that has to be hard, right? Because you want to share the story so bad, but then you have to protect others, right, from getting hurt. Um, when you're writing your story, was there anybody that said, "Hey, that is me" in the book?
Not yet, but my book has only been out less than a month. So
Oh,
we'll see.
so we're good, right? It's only 30 days, Liz. Like, talk to me in 6 months and see if anybody notices that it's them.
My
Um,
hope is my hope is people don't recognize themselves, because it wasn't my intention to embarrass anybody, but it was my intention to show other people, like, hey, there are going to be people in your life who don't show up for you and make this harder for you. And it's part of the game. But there are other people in your life who you haven't even met yet. They're going to have a huge impact on your sobriety.
and the people that didn't show up, and you know, we have these expectations in life, right? That we expect certain people to show up, or certain people that notice that there's a red flag or something is off, but those people don't notice, or they turn a blind eye to it. How did that feel?
Awful. Really, I was really, really hurt, by one friend in particular who I was I thought we were close. We had our little kids together, and granted, all of our socializing was around drinking. Um, and when I stopped drinking, I expected her support, and I expected our relationship to continue for a long time. Our kids had our whole lives to grow up together. And, she kind of dumped me like a hot potato, and it really hurt.
Well, it's kind of like saying you're not the fun girl anymore, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And, or maybe she had issues with her own drinking, and maybe I was a mirror that she didn't want to look at. I don't know.
and see, that's something that we don't talk about, is that mirror, right? Why a lot of people that we expect to be there for us don't show up for us. It may be the mirror that they're afraid of, right? Because it's something they have to reflect on and see it for themselves as well.
I was guilty of that. My friend, who I call Katie in the book, she got sober 4 years before me. And I was like, I don't want to hang out with her unless I'm not drinking. So she became my daytime friend. Like we would go out to lunch or something. But at nighttime, I'm like, I know I would rather be drinking, and I feel self-conscious drinking in front of her. So I'm not going to hang out with her at night.
And how is that for you now, Mary, going to events and in gatherings where there is drinking?
I mean, now 14 years in, I'm good. I if I feel like, you know what, there's a point in the night where people are getting drunk and I feel disconnected from them, I will just bounce. Or I'll tell my husband, like, I think I'm out. If you want to stay, that's great. If you want to come with me, that's great. And we have a very good open relationship about that.
One of my listeners, I guess, has checked your book out, and they said your story is described as humor, heart, and sober. How do those three elements show up in your journey?
Well, so I have always appreciated a good sense of humor. My family, we all grew up with a good sense of humor, but maybe to a fault. Maybe I was a little too self-deprecating, which one of my therapists, I didn't have multiple therapists at one time, but I am of a certain age. So over the years, she pointed out that my sense of humor was a defense mechanism. So putting that aside for a minute, I still find it important to laugh at yourself. And there are situations in early sobriety that are laughable. Like I went to a 3-year-old birthday party, and the mom knew I was coming. She knew I had an hour drive, and I had never I never want to drive to your house. It's too far. And you better have my favorite Chardonnay waiting for me if I come. So I was maybe a week sober, and she didn't know. And I come in and she pulls up this bottle of Chardonnay out of the cooler. My mouth is still watering. Like the ice chips were dripping off of it and it was all oxidized, and she was swinging it back and forth. And I was just like mesmerized, and she's like, look what I got just for you. And I'm like, no. And she was like, what? Why? And then I was like, oh my gosh, I can't tell her the truth right now that there's a party going on. So I said, I have a bladder infection. And she's like, oh, okay. And she pulled out a juicy juice box that she was serving to the 3-year-olds. That was the only thing non-alcoholic she had to offer. And I had to walk around the party with this damn juicy juice box. And I was just like, it's ridiculous.
You blame it on the bladder, right?
I know. I was starting to came out of my mouth. But you just have to laugh at those situations. And so, I mean, and you have to find the humor in sobriety. And there is a lot of humor in sobriety. Like there's so much community around it now, whether you're in Facebook groups or Instagram or AA or any group. There's a lot of humor, and you find people laughing at things that other people would be shocked at. But if you're in our boat and you've done really stupid, embarrassing things, you can laugh about them with these people and they get you.
Yeah. Well, we said that this afternoon with this afternoon's tea time, right? It's a coping mechanism. When things get a little too heavy, we kind of just throw that joke in there, right? We kind of just swing it in. And people are like, that's not the right time for this. But for us at that time, it is the right time. So.
And I think I've learned to balance it better. I think I now am able to tap into, okay, this is a hard feeling. Just sit with it, and whoever you're with, just be authentic with them. You don't have to make a joke out of it and make fun of yourself or whatever. Like, it's okay. I don't know. I think when I was drinking, I didn't have the confidence that people would like a flawed Mary. And now I'm like, that's ridiculous. Everybody's flawed. And you feel closer to somebody when they share their flaws with you, right?
Let's talk about that letting go and courage and confidence and all of that. Where did that all come in? Like, was that?
I think getting sober is about the most courageous thing somebody can do. I mean, don't put me to a test, but I would say it's right up there with you have to have a lot of courage to do that, to take that leap, that making this giant change when you don't think it's going to necessarily make life great for you. That takes a lot of courage. Staying with it when it's hard takes courage. Admitting you need help takes courage. Admitting, like, I can't go to that party tonight. You know what? I need to go to a meeting, or I need to check in with my sober friends. Learning to put yourself first. That was a big eye opener for me. I'm not saying this as a compliment to myself, but I always put everybody else first and myself last. And that's not a good way to live. So just learning how to embrace self-care and slow down and be gentle with myself. Um, those were all advice given to me that I had to hear it about 1,000 times before it sunk in.
Well, I think we're as women, as mothers, we're programmed to be that people pleaser, right? Say
Yeah.
yes to the kids, say yes to the kids. So the kids doesn't hate me, the kid will love me, you know. And then we do it with our friends, and then we do it with our spouses, and we do it with our coworkers, like just like me, like me, like me, until we realize that we have to like ourselves first in order for others to really truly like us.
Yeah. And I really didn't like myself until I got sober, or if I was performing at work, if I was doing, then I liked myself. If I was being, I didn't like myself.
Do you find by the question I got here is how did sobriety shape your ability to reflect and write with honesty?
Well, number one, I had the energy to write. Had I been drinking, I would not have had the energy. I just would have been watching TV, Um, but because I went through the 12 steps, um, honesty is a huge focus. And part of that is writing. So you have to write out, your personal inventory. So all the things that have triggered you, maybe things that you've done wrong or people have done wrong to you. So, and going to meetings and sharing super honestly with other people and hearing their honesty, it's so freeing, that I think that gave me permission in a sense to just start writing. And they tell you to write like nobody's going to read it. Like that's the only way to write authentically. And when you're doing nonfiction, right? Memoir, you got to leave your critic at the door and you got to write like nobody's watching. And you worry later about what people might think about it. So I think I did a good job of just staying focused on my story, as if I was telling it to myself and not worrying about, anybody else's reaction to it.
Mary, sharing this story tonight, it for me, we talked before, it it lets me know that it's okay to feel, that tightness once in a while, and letting that free writing honesty onto the paper, letting it out, right, releasing it, and letting go. Uh, and that's what really stood out with your story was the letting go part and the courage of that tightness, because we hold this tightness in us, right, when we're trying to please everybody, that our body starts to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until we no longer understand why we're so tight and so wound up and so cranky. And it's like that happy hour, right, where the cranky thing, right, I need the wine now, like,
Yeah.
um
When
and
I learned to zoom out in those moments and acknowledge those feelings. Say, wow, I feel really tight right now. Wow, I'm really stressed out. But just doing that in a non-judgmental way starts to kind of calm my nervous system a little bit.
so I want to ask you, where do you go, like what creative ritual do you use before writing? Do you now, because before it was the drinking, but now you're not drinking, so
Yeah, I'd still make myself a nice beverage, depending on the time of day. When I was in the zone writing the book, I would wake up still in my robe, make a really nice cup of tea, get on my couch, put my feet up. My dog would jump on my lap, and then I would kind of scooter away to put my laptop down. I'd light a nice scented candle, and I would just write until I got hungry, or had to get up to do something. But I would get in a good few hours, that way.
the reason why I asked what your ritual is because different writers have different rituals, right? And sometimes because of sobriety, the first thing you want to do is grab a glass of wine, right, and then sit down, start writing, start journaling, and then you're like, oh no, this is the opposite of what I got to do.
Yeah. Oh,
So
luckily for me, I was a morning writer, so I didn't even, a glass of wine wasn't in the cards anyway. And then I had to write in the living room, even though I had this desk, which I'm sitting at right now, which is ergonomically correct and where I should have been writing. I had to sit in the living room so I could look out the window and see the hill and nature, because it just helped my mind stay focused. Sitting at the desk felt too much like work, and sitting on the couch watching nature go by felt just like I could get into this joyous space.
So writing in the
Goofy word, but you know what I mean, like a productive, creative space.
yeah. Well, you want to be comfortable, right, when you're writing, because you're releasing heavy stuff. So you don't want to be in a heavy spot and then have to release heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned tea and candles. So is there a certain flavor or scent that you use that
in the morning it was Lady Grey with almond milk creamer. In the afternoon, like right now, I'm drinking rose tea, which is lovely. And then the candle, it just has to be like a real clean, light floral scent. Nothing too overpowering, just something that makes me puts me in a little bit of a vacation mood.
There we go. Vacation. And where would you like to go on vacation, Mary?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to Canada. Well, I mean, I'm going to become an empty nester in a couple of weeks. And my husband and I are going to Canada with another couple for a little empty nesting trip to Banff and Lake Louise and Jasper. And I'm so excited.
Beautiful areas. You're going to enjoy yourself. And
yeah.
Got to check out those springs and the waterfalls. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful area.
Oh my gosh. I love both of those. I love any body of water, but hot springs and waterfalls are top two.
Yeah. Beautiful area. You're going to enjoy yourself. For sure.
I'm excited.
So Mary, if you could describe your book Uncorked in one word, how would you describe it?
Okay. It's going to sound really dorky, but it's the first word that came to mind. I would say blossoming.
Oh, and why we were just talking about flowers and scents and tea.
Yeah. Okay, maybe that's where it came from. But I feel like because in retrospect, I was living this half life, as Fun Mary, all those years that I drank. And when I quit drinking and started exploring life sober, I just feel like everything keeps opening up for me. So I think that's where blossoming. And I feel like, they say when you stop, you're kind of emotionally stunted at the age which you start drinking alcoholically, right? So I was a 16-year-old for 30 years. And I was selfish and tantrumy and self-centered. And when I quit drinking, I started being able to let go of some of that, and just kind of seeing a more full picture.
So almost like a reinvention.
Yeah. It was a complete new identity. It was like, and ironically 45, like right at midlife. So it was kind of a midlife anti-crisis, whatever the opposite of crisis.
Women get those too, right? You always hear that about the man having a midlife crisis. Us women have it too,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever the opposite of crisis is, it was my midlife blossoming. How about that?
There we go. There's a blossom and reinvention.
Midlife reinvention. I like that better.
Right. And Mary, I want to get into your colors because you talk about blossoming, scents and flavors and all that. When I asked you what your favorite color was, you said emerald green. Why emerald green? Because that's a solid color. That's not just green, Miss Les green. No, you went emerald green. So
well, I've always identified with being Irish, although I'm Irish American. I spent a year in Ireland, and I mean, the greens there are so beautiful, and it's nature, right? There's also a lovely emerald green jewel, but that just feels like home to me. That color.
Are you a Taurus?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh.
My birthday's tomorrow.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You know what? I'm getting a lot of birthdays this year with my tea time guests. I have a guest that's coming next week and it's his birthday too. And I'm just like, well, I'll be celebrating your birthday with you. So
well, that's good.
I get to celebrate a day early with you, Mary.
This will be my kickoff event.
Right? And yet the word that you gave me to describe yourself was resilient. Why that word?
Well, that accident I had in Ireland was no picnic. I was 23, alone, far, far from home, and with under threat of paralysis. I had to be sandbagged in that hospital bed for 3 weeks and have surgery on my heel and be put in a body cast and a leg cast and then carry on for the rest of the year. I'm resilient. I had a tough first marriage that didn't work out. I had a brother pass away. He died falling off a cliff. It was very traumatic. He was 32 when I was 30. And sobriety, like that's, to get through that and to have been able to stay sober through difficult moments, both of my parents passing. I thought, like, I don't know how I'm going to stay sober when my mom dies. But I did. And same with when my dad died. And, stuff still comes up. Stuff's going on in my life right now. And I feel like I am resilient.
I love that you said that, Mary, because there's so many people that says, "Oh, she has it all together. She just wrote her book. She's memoir. Everything is fine and dandy." No, she still has stuff going on, guys. Like it never ends.
Life is on fire right now, but it's great to be able to just say, okay, this is what's going on right now, and we'll get through it. And you got to find your moments of happiness in there, and stay present with your family and friends and your dog. The dog's always a good unconditional love, and you get through.
So, Mary, besides your own memoir, what book inspired you to get sober?
There's a memoir that is the holy grail of sobriety memoirs to me, and it's called Drinking a Love Story. It's kind of a classic. It was written a long time ago. The author has since passed away, but she was funny and witty, and she worked I think she was a journalist. And I saw an alcoholic that had a good life still, that she was a productive member of society. She had gotten sober. She was still funny and witty and smart. And that gave me hope that, first of all, it gave me a role model. Like, okay, all kinds of people are alcoholics. It's not just somebody passed out on a park bench. There's all sorts of alcoholics. We're surrounded by them. We all know alcoholics. We love alcoholics, right? They're everywhere. But that woman really, that book really spoke to me. Another really great one was Diary of an Alcoholic Housewife. Because when I got sober, I had quit working to stay home with the kids. And that was no picnic. I was starting to drink when I shouldn't, when I was in charge of the kids. So that book, was like, wow, here is a mom sharing her story, spilling her guts about what happened, and how courageous is that, So those two books are kind of my OGs of sobriety memoirs.
Tina, it's always nice to have other books that you can relate to, or other stories that you can relate to, that says, you know what? Oh, I think I can do this too. And what's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody ready to uncork their own life?
Be gentle with yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. Get help, find community. There's so much community now, like even more so than when I got sober, just with all the Facebook groups and the Instagram groups. Whatever your issue is, there's probably a support group for it. And I'm a firm believer that I couldn't have done this alone. And then find your trusted people and share with them what's going on with you. You're going to hit some duds, some people you think are going to support you may not, but it's okay, because there are others who will. And you'll grow strength, and there are people you haven't met yet who will help you.
And Mary, what's next for you?
I want to take that watercolor class.
The watercolor class. Are you working on another book?
I'm not. I am writing short pieces in support of this book. And what I'm learning is when you publish a book, there's a good 6 months where you devote after that to making sure the book sees the light of day. So I'm enjoying going on this podcast with you and making people more aware of it. And I'm, I want to do what I can after 10 to 13 years of hard work to make sure the book gets out to people who need it. So I think that will take me over the next 6 months. And then I don't know what's next for me, but I'm super excited about that.
Are you looking at doing any speaking engagements?
I have one locally here, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have two events coming up in September. And then beyond that, I don't know. I have a TV appearance later this week. But I love to talk. I love to talk sobriety. So I'm welcoming any invitations.
And if I give you the word letting go and starting over, what does that mean for you?
It means letting go of things that were keeping you stuck, that you held on to super tight for probably way too long, and having the courage to leave them behind and take the brave step and carve a new path.
And one thing that has changed your life, one memory, one moment.
Having children has completely changed my life. My heart grew boink, boink, like the Grinch, right? It grew bigger and bigger. Of course, it comes with a lot of worry, but other than that, I would say sobriety and having children are probably the two biggest life changers.
And becoming a mom is scary. Getting sober is scary.
Yes. And I had zero confidence in my skills. You would think coming from a giant family, I would have more skills, but because I was next to the baby, I didn't have any skills. So I was like reading the book, I was late. I had my kids at 40 and 41. So I was used to researching everything for work. And so I approached, having children like being a producer. But I will have to say one other thing. My husband, my partner, I think has had probably the overall biggest effect. It was his support that helped me get sober. Couldn't have had those kids without him. And our relationship keeps evolving thanks to me being sober. We have just been able to get much more honest with each other. And it's kind of a big chapter for us becoming empty nesters, right? So we have a lot more to grow and more attention to pay to each other. So I'm excited about that too.
And Mary, if anybody wanted to reach out to you or get the book, where could they get it? And I'm going to pull the book up again so people can see the book.
You can ask for it at bookstores, or it's available on Amazon. And I'm available. My website is just my name, MaryAliceStevens.com.
Awesome. Mary, I really enjoyed this conversation tonight with you and getting to know you a little bit more and getting to know you a few minutes before the show. Yeah, I always like when my guests come early because then I get to know them a little bit more. And I get the little insiders and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to do a little summary of what tonight's tea time was, and then we'll wrap it up. And I'll wish you a happy birthday again for tomorrow.
And thank you so much for what you do. It's awesome how you share everybody's stories. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Don't jump out. I'm just going to give everybody a little summary. As we close to today's tea time, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, Mary Alice Stevens, for sharing your story, your wisdom, and the light with us. Your journey is a reminder that healing begins when we dare to be honest, embrace our truths, and share our voices with the world. Mary Alice, your courage and insight have not only inspired us, but have planted seeds of hope and transformation that will continue to grow long after today's conversation. This tea time was a celebration of courage, healing, and hope. Mary Alice Stevens reminded us that letting go is not about losing. It's about uncorking your truest self and savoring the beauty of fresh starts. Her story in Uncorked is an invitation to live unapologetically and to find freedom in rewriting your own narrative. Thank you to everyone who joined us for this powerful tea time. Reminder, every story has the power to heal, and every cup shared brings us closer to understanding, unity, and change. And I want to really thank everybody for tuning in and supporting Mary on this journey. And if you'd like to know more about Mary, check her out on her website again. And I will be back on Thursday with 2 more incredible guests, and we'll do this all over again. And I want to thank all of my listeners on Instagram. I see you guys on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of that. Without all of you guys, I could not do this. So thank you again. And if you haven't checked out Teatime, go on over and check it out, because there's over 450 incredible stories on there for you to check out each and every day, and you can watch them at your own pace. Till then, let's keep spilling and let's keep making a difference with Teatime, one cup of tea at a time.